Hey guys, Mustached. I'm here to review the movie 28 Years Later. Now, I've seen the trailer for this a few times, pop up, maybe even once, I think, that I've seen anyway. But I decided for this time around to go back a little bit in our timelines here. I looked at my own channel and I realized I'd never reviewed 28 Days Later, or 28 Weeks Later for that matter. So this is my first official jump into reviewing this, so I might as well give a briefer version of my thoughts of the original two movies that led up to this. So, 28 Days Later is a classic for quite a number of reasons. It builds on the shots that I very much feel inspire the very first episode of The Walking Dead. That being, man wakes up from coma to realize he is in a situation that is no longer kind, as it were, with it being a zombie apocalypse and all. Of course, the series of The Walking Dead has to have that a bit more condensed within that one episode versus the movie, which allows that space to breathe in him going through different parts of London before he can even encounter other people. One of which being this lady named Selena, which they kind of just begin to move together, and there's this one other guy who eventually gets bit along the way, so he has to get axed, as it were. But on their travels, they come across a building that is being lit. This leads them to Hannah and her father, in which, they get there, they deal with some more zombies, and it's the father who shows them that there is this radio call from this military outpost. So their faith is a little more invigorated to go there, of all places. Once reaching there, only to find out eventually, speaking, that the military wants to use the two ladies there that have been brought there for in the orders of repopulation. Forced breeding is sort of the quote-unquote cure that they are alluding to. And our protagonist takes a massive gamble in the movie. He uses a zombie that they were withholding to see how long it would survive without eating anything, and unleashes it with Selena and Hannah still within the facility. So yeah, this is very much about gambling. And, the whole idea of the whole, we need to get our numbers up thing definitely feels a lot more real now than it ever has, considering there are certain people in real life, as of in 2025, who guise this idea that we need to up our population numbers. This runs in conservative circles only, by the way. That we indeed, yes, need to, again, up our population numbers, and they use the guise of, but it's for religion and a happy family. So they use those things to say, oh, and, the whole pro-life thing, they tack that on as an additive to say, the life of the newborn, it's gotta make it no matter what. 'Cause numbers. So yeah, I can totally buy this premise, from this movie, from the original movie, considering where we are now, especially seeing that again there are people in real life who kind of argue for this. But again, there is the massive gamble, and that to me speaks of the extreme desperation characters find themselves in, I would argue, throughout this entire trilogy now at this point, as there will be certain things in this movie as well that we'll get to. 28 weeks later very much opens on a gamble rather than ending on one. So it is pretty much told to us that parts of Britain have been saved, as it were, but there's definitely still a lot to be left to be desired, as it were. And we open up on this husband and wife who are in this household with a few other individuals, and it's made pretty evidently clear that they're like on the second floor, I believe, where the husband and wife are now separated because the wife went after to save this kid, and he was on the opposing side of the room, and said zombie comes in, is kind of trying to figure out which target to go for. The husband rolls out of the window, leaving the wife to her fate, as it were, or what he assumes is her fate at the time. So he immediately takes that, action to get out, as it were, and further carry on that he's gonna lie to his own kids about that situation, saying how he tried to save her and that how he couldn't and she died. In fact, we see her later in the movie, which is what shifts their perspective pretty harshly against him. And he is also changed in that moment in desperation to see her. Now, this has obviously been criticized as, despite him owning this, being the leader of this whole operation, as it were, that he would not only have access, but more importantly, that the wife that they do eventually bring in is left in there without any guards that are in the room with her at any given point, or the point that he arrives there to her. Of course, this is their interaction that allows him to kiss her, which she's now a carrier. And so he is infected, kills her, and proceeds to infect more people, thus unleashing the rage virus, as it's known even from the first movie, to resurge, as it were. So, with that being the setup, it is all about how the military is trying to contain it, and they're originally trying to just kill the zombies, but they're losing more and more control, so they just get ordered to kill anybody. Or everyone in this instance. Which, might be one of the stupidest orders you can conceivably give context to. And, this definitely affects some bizarre things later on, like you see a driving van full of people, and the military decides an entire helicopter with said given order now shoots at it. It's like, those are people, though. That zombies can't drive cars. Like, why would you, it's, it's that kind of level of, there are definitely quite a number of issues in 28 weeks later versus 28 days later, which, its ending has that very risky gamble in it of itself. So there is that. But this just 28 weeks later definitely had a lot more bizarre choices in it, more so. But point being is that that just skip toward the end where it's just the kid and the sister. The kid gets attacked by the father. Then the daughter deals with it, and you can see the infection hit his eye, but he would now be a carrier rather than a cure. Presumably, before being infected, he could have been a cure. I think the idea that what has been mistaken. I think I was watching another review of 28 Weeks Later from EFAP, mentioning how the timeline doesn't, or like the whole idea of it being just a cure doesn't really fit this whole thing really well. I would argue that it does make sense. Like, she would have been a cure very much like the son would have been before getting infected. And their blood would have been much more useful before getting infected in both instances, mayhaps. It would be the way I would have, summed that all up in a quick way. But we see them being flown via helicopter, but we see that the infection has indeed spread deeper into Paris now at the end of that movie. Which neatly and quickly brings us into 28 years later. Obviously, that is a huge jump from 28 weeks, and it has been pondered upon why this wasn't called 28 months later, or something along those lines. And there is a literal time gap between 28 weeks later in this movie, as of like an actual 20-year or close to 28-year gap. I believe I counted it. It was more like 25 to be exact. So it's a little bit off by a few years. Maybe they could have tightened up the script a little bit more. Who knows? But yes, now it's 28 years later. And that's just the situation we are dealing with. So, the movie opens up with a viewing of the Teletubbies. And a bunch of kids are in that room. One particular named Jimmy. This will come into effect way later in the movie. Point being is that he is the only one to essentially escape through means of wiggling his way out, I guess. Point being is that he makes it to the church where his father is, who is also a priest, who believes that this is the rapture he has been waiting for. He's gone nuts. So the son is left to fend for himself and flee further from that. And we cut to 28 years later. Now, initially you're thinking, oh, we're probably gonna follow him. Immediately follow. No, we actually just jump to a completely different character. This father and his son named Spike. The Spike character is about 12 years old, and he has a mother who seems to be bedridden and seems to be sick with something or other. She's not infected, but she's still, dealing with something else entirely. So, with that being the case, he's being readied to essentially get ready to hunt his first zombie. And this based on the little town that we find ourselves in, seems to be a rather big deal, as the town people are being supportive, they're cheering him on, getting ready to go. And so we have this, and they get the go ahead, being told that, with being out there and all, that there will be no person to pick you up or assist you out there. You're on your own. We can only open the gate if you return to us, essentially, is the vibe. And showing just a reminder of, like, here are all the people that have been sacrificed, as it were, before. It definitely makes it more so seem like this was a recent development of they have now changed their ways. That's how I took it anyway when I first watched this movie. I only watched it the once so that's also a thing to point out here. But anyway, point being is that the two of them head out. Thusly, they come across a zombie. And these zombies appear to be drastically different from the iteration of zombies we have seen before. This fat zombie in particular seems to eat worms. And beforehand, we have seen that zombies don't particularly have any interest in animals whatsoever. So yeah, we now have different types of zombies, as it were, being introduced here. So the son does get a successful first shot on the said zombie, all the while a secondary fat zombie wife, I guess, tries to sneak up from behind, but the father catches it and kills that one as well, only to discover there's a third mini fat zombie, and they kind of just leave it alone for whatever reason. I believe the implication here is that they just need to more so get ready to move rather than even be worried about whatever that small zombie is getting up to. So they kind of move along towards this house, where they find a individual hung upside down, who we see ends up being infected as well, infected as well. And the father is once again guiding the son to, look towards the thing, that this is a soulless creature, and kill this one as well. And he's definitely taking his time, being distraught by just the sight of it, but does eventually get the shot off at the tail end of it escaping itself. But once they head outside, and preparations to leave, they sort of breach like this open field. They stop as opposed on the hill is what we learn is our new introduction of a zombie called an alpha. This is what the father refers to this type of zombie as. And so, it is told to us, and the son more importantly, that the alpha is smarter, faster, stronger, and so on and so forth. And so that they should run as more zombies are starting, first he's telling them to wait to see if they've noticed them, which I think is a pretty big mistake, but as more zombies begin to linger up that is when they begin to run. And so they get chased, and they make their way back, because now they cannot go home. They have to find another way. So they end up in this other house where they stay the night after getting to the attic. In this brief moment, the son, they see that the big brooding alpha is still out there on one side. On the other side, the son points out a peculiar sight in a fire. And so, he's kind of wondering if they should go over there or whatever, but, the alpha on the loose, the father is proposing that they ought to get, it's more important that they return home at this juncture. But we have a short sleeping sequence where the son falls asleep there. And during it, in the real life, a quake is happening, so a quake is happening toward the house, which causes it to collapse. And so, the two of them are now forced to move. And they eventually wiggle their way back to the shoreline, where, because the island where their group is, it is connected on this, bridge of land, essentially, that is, that can be, hidden by the water, essentially, by high tide, is the whole gimmick here. And so, they're running, and the alpha catches up and is now chasing them across. And so the people of the village catch on to this, and as they're, pleading for help now that they're visible, the people in the in-group let loose their arrows. Eventually, one of them uses, a catapult or whatever it was to, hit it with something significantly bigger to kill it. And so the son and father actually return to the village, successful in their mission, as it were. And they begin to celebrate. The entire town does. The son is not feeling particularly proud of his work, as when shit was starting to hit the fan, as it were, when more of them began chasing them, we see him still trying to fire but missing all the shots at that juncture of the little chase scene. And he's trying to get that across while the father's over-exaggerating the story to make it seem like he's done the most heroic thing ever and everyone's totally on board with it. So, while that's going on, the father spots a pretty little lady that is not his wife, and he decides to take a little walkity-walk away from the party with this lady in tow. The son spots this and follows behind, not being seen by either of them. A little bit of not enough distance for that. And we see that the father is getting a little bit frisky as the son catches this act, knowing that the mother is very much still in the picture of all things. So this is definitely the thing in this movie here. This completely flips his perspective on his own father here, the son that being. And so, he wants to find a cure for his mom, He just wants to know what's wrong with her in general. So the next day, the son, it's you know, alluded to, it's not shown to us per se, it's alluded to us that he's the one that sets this fire and then proceeds to, scoop around to the front of the base to essentially get the postman to help out clear the fire that he has made. Once they leave, he gets down and grabs his mom, and proceeding to do so, brings her out to the mainland to find who's behind the fire, which he's been told by, I don't know if it was his uncle or some person who just lives with them or whatever, but that guy mentioned how that person who brought the fires was like some sort of doctor. And so, with that being his new destination, the son now has a new mission, that being to take his mom to go see said doctor and try to avoid, zombies along the way. Now, I should mention that during the review that I was listening to, they say that this is where the movie becomes a secondary movie, or a second movie. And I kept, in thinking about my own recap of this and review of this, I'm thinking to myself, right, so is the idea that the plot of the first movie was simply actually going to just be a hunt? Because that actually would have been a extremely short movie. So I'm not sure why that is the implication. I thought what I took this as is a long setup to get us to the main plot. The pacing of this movie is surprisingly slow, meaning, is what I'm trying to get at here, is that the entire, first bit of everything I just said, this training arc, as it were, is all to set up the plot of the father caught cheating and the son wanting to save the mom. That's what sets up the actual plot. Everything beforehand is just training. And so, the rest of the movie's plot can now continue. So he resumes outside with her now. And, she has sort of the sense of dementia, or not being able to remember things properly. All along the way, as they're moving, we briefly cut to this other group, this military group, who has been out there, and their numbers are getting reduced as they're fleeing from zombies, but shooting nonetheless and being picked off one by one. This comes into relevance pretty quickly as when our other two get around the spot, generally speaking, they see one military guy as they are forced to enter this shop as they have encountered some zombies now. That's filled with this purpley smoke stuff. And I will say, this is probably what I would criticize the movie the most. I don't believe the son and mother survive this, at least from what I'm looking at. So the setup is they're inside, the zombies are also getting inside, the military guy is up above on the roof, and I guess the gas is flammable as well. So he tosses something in there that causes a massive explosion, And yeah, the son and mom are still in there. I'm not sure how they survive this at all. It's a head scratcher indeed. Like, they don't sit. I don't even recall them setting up them hiding somewhere to avoid the blast radius or whatever. Like, I have no clue how they survive this. It is baffling. So this movie definitely has its own fair share of issues. This one would probably be its biggest, I would argue, considering that, again, this would kill our main characters. So yeah. Anyway. Somehow, by some means, they survive that, and are pulled out. And, initially the soldier doesn't want to help them, but then we smashed cut to him helping them. Which does lead to this immediate shift in tone here, as there kind of is a levity about this character that has been missing in the previous two movies. And I'm not saying it's needed, but I mean, he's definitely bringing a lot of levity. He's almost like a comic relief character, as it were. As the three of them now are being guided further and further away to try to get to the doctor. I believe this guy, this military guy, his name is Eric, if I remember everything correctly. And so, Eric joins Spike and his mom on their little journey, and eventually they come across this bus line, and they hear some peculiar moaning, and we saw earlier in the movie a zombie with a fat belly, who is a female zombie in particular. Now, I will point out that there is another zombie movie that deals with a pregnancy, and in that movie, they give birth to a zombie baby in that. I think that's the I don't know which day it is. I don't know which day zombie movie it is. It's the one where they head to the mall. But anyway, point being is that in this instance we have a zombie pretty much getting ready to give birth. And the mom surprisingly goes over there to help to the best of her ability, and eventually Spike and the other military guy get over there as well, and seeing the miracle of birth, as it were. And it seems like they are not doing the whole zombie baby thing. It seems, in fact, that the baby seems to be born normal. So flipping that on its head, that this whole rage virus does not pass down to something that is newly born. I guess the implication being that babies cannot be born with rage inside of them. I think that tracks. I don't know. Hard to say. But despite that, the military guy, Eric, does not believe that they should be carrying around what he thinks is still an infected zombie baby, while the mom is trying to convince him otherwise. But that is the end of Eric, as the Alpha grabs him and tears his head and spine from his body like a predator. Like, literally, like, I think they just, like, ripped this from Predator, I'm guessing. This whole idea of the Alpha. Except making a humanoid instead of, well, a predator. Point being is that the Alpha is now here, and the Sun guides her off as the Alpha slightly gets distracted by the zombie who has given birth. Presumably, he might have been the one to do it, I guess, maybe, who knows. I think that's the implication anyway. It's never obviously shown to us, the act, as it were. Though we do see a bunch of schlong in this movie, as the zombies are never clothed in this movie. So the Alpha chases them out, and they get, Spike in particular gets saved through massive coincidence as a dart that seems to, for somehow, some way, just calm the zombie, the Alpha in particular, down into this almost sleep mode, as it were. This is the Doc. They were moving toward him, sure enough, but I mean, him getting to them first, so it does seem to be a bit, again, a pretty big convenience, if you ask me, but whatever. At any rate, so the Doc guides them to, this memento mori, as he refers, or, he's talking about that, the saying in Latin, remember, something about remembering the dead, or that we all die, essentially, at some point. And we see the structure of skeletons, as this poster implies, and that he has them all stacked up like this, like the poster. And there are other structures around it as well that are skeletal in nature. Skeletal in nature, excuse me. And so the doctor checks in, because this Spike asks him to figure out what's wrong with the mom. It turns out that this is a cancer, an untreatable one at that. So she's going to die relatively soon, and obviously this upsets Spike to no end. But the mother embraces this, as earlier when they first arrived there, Spike places the skull of Eric, because they still have the skull, or head rather, and the Doc shifts it into a skull. And then, when the Sun is calmed down with this this dart, he then proceeds to shoot the mom with another type of dart, I'm assuming, and killing, letting her die peacefully, as peacefully as one can, as her time window is, nearly up, as he was implying. And so, the Sun, once he's sort of kind of recollecting himself from this shot, is told to place the way his mom said, at the best spot. So we see the Sun climb the little sticks you see poking out of the skull pile, and puts his mom's head at the tippy top. Unfortunately, as he's working his way back down, the Alpha has reawakened, so they get a move on and hide underneath. The Doc this time almost getting it, but the Sun shoots him with another dart that he manages to scramble to get. And so they wiggle their way past. And so the Sun returns back to the shoreline alone, like when they have enough distance. And it is implied that, he kind of walks to the other side with the baby in a basket. He's found a basket, and he places the basket, like on the corner there, but leaves, not returning home. Instead, writes a note that he presumably leaves in the baby's crib, makeshift crib there, and heads out and says that he's essentially just gotta kind of wing it out there, essentially. But the father is obviously catches on to this at some juncture, as the others also hear the baby crying and pick that up and sort of allow it to sort of fit in, I suppose. As the father is quite upset at this turn of events, as we now see the son taking out zombies, but he finds himself against a wall, and more zombies are coming in around the hook. We are reintroduced to a much significantly, 20, 30 something rather, who knows how old, Jimmy from the beginning of the movie, now older, obviously 28 years later, happening here from the beginning. He seems to have a priestly attire on, as a bunch of other individuals among his group are signaled down to take care of it, and thus then a wild shot proceed to kill the zombies in a sort of show-offy fashion. And this Jimmy asks Spike if he wishes to join him, and that is the end of 28 years later when it is being considered. So yeah, I think this movie has a pretty big issue in, in the character surviving what they survive, considering. So I think I'm going to give this like a 6 out of 10. Only because I think the rest of the movie is pretty strong, actually, all things considered. But, it does have that big gap that needs to be fixed, I would argue. But outside of that, I don't think there's much else that I'd see wrong with the movie. So yeah, that's my review of 28 Years Later. If you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out small YouTubers, and to my PayPal where you can help support me and my channel directly. Third to my Discord server, join Collab Shield, all that cool stuff. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.